Hi, Nate. Sorry about that. This is Kat from Tom the Tree Man Show.
Hey, no worries.
So how are you doing this week?
Fantastic. How about you?
All right. I hear we have a big announcement.
Yeah, we've got some really good stuff going on. We got invited out to Los Angeles to one of our board of directors, Lamont. He's been really instrumental in connecting with us with some really great people. We had an incredible meeting in Los Angeles last Thursday with Percy Miller, also known as Master P.
Ooh.
And Master P, we were going to meet for about 90 minutes, and about 4 hours and 7 minutes later, we convened the meeting because we all had things that we needed to get to. But I'm going to be going back to Los Angeles shortly, it looks like, and we're going to be discussing more details. He gave me a short, kind of an endorsement video, and just telling us, that he's partnering up with us. And we're just going to work out all the details as far as what his role will be in the corporation and how he will work with us. But we are extraordinarily excited to have a mogul on his level come on board with us because he is an incredible, brilliant businessman.
Oh, yeah.
And will be an incredibly valuable member of our team. We're really excited.
Oh my gosh! I mean, talk about tapping into a pretty big network there.
Yeah, he's incredible, and he's I've known a lot about him. I've followed his career, from almost start to now, and I knew a lot about him. But I was able to. It was a very. There was only just a few of us in the room. It ended up being really just 3 or 4 of us at the end, and we were talking extensively about deals that had been done, had not been done, and the character behind the person.
Mm-hmm.
And he really has an incredible amount of character, and he will walk away from millions of dollars based on character. And, one thing that really struck me about him that most people don't see is that even though he had a really, really tough upbringing and a real hard life initially, and now he's extraordinarily wealthy. You can Google his net worth. It's in the hundreds of millions of dollars,
mm-hmm.
and rising. He's always doing something. He's an innovator. He's constantly changing things up. He hasn't forgotten where he came from, and he didn't, forget what it was like to sleep with no mattress. And
mm-hmm.
Some of the stories that he was telling me about, his life when he was a kid and a teenager and things of that nature. It's a unique situation where, $100 usually won't change somebody, but $100 million will.
Right.
And he has created the No Limit Records and No Limit Boys brand is really a $1 billion brand. I mean, no matter how you look at it. And he has created this massive network of wealth and its streams of income and all of these different things. And he is just a real down to earth regular guy, and it's incredible because I've met people that are worth far less than him,
mm-hmm.
that have their heads so high in the clouds
mm-hmm.
they can't even remember what it was like to work an 8-hour week.
Wow.
And he's like, I get up at 6 o'clock every morning without an alarm clock. He said, because I'm just driven. I just go and I go and I go.
He remembers what it's like to be hungry.
We absolutely. Well, I mean, that's the great thing about him is that he's in his 40s now, and he's had just such an incredible career and recognized such talent and recognized opportunities and taking advantage of those opportunities and he's still doing it. He's still hungry. He still wants to do it. And it's not because he needs to, have a meal.
Right.
He does it because he loves it and he's passionate about it, and he's really an incredible individual. I mean, I had a lot of respect for him before.
Well, he's creating.
Just because I had, really, I had understood his upbringing and things that he had gone through in life and what he had overcome to achieve success, which was almost insurmountable odds. The odds were totally stacked against him as far as becoming even just a regular, productive member of society.
Mm-hmm.
And not only did he surpass that, he made himself into in my opinion, and everybody is entitled to their own opinion, in my opinion, one of the best entertainers that ever has been.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're really excited, and he's really an incredible individual. We had an incredible, long conversation. There will be multiple more conversations to come, and I just feel so blessed. He's got a faith in God, and his partner that was there with him does as well, and it was a great meeting. It was just very real. It wasn't choreographed or fake or, it wasn't material.
Right.
It was about what can we do to help people? What can we do to change things? The money's a byproduct of it, and that's great. Everybody wants money. I mean, look, if I had a choice to be broke or be rich, obviously you'd rather be rich.
Right.
But the money isn't the reason that you do it. You have this drive inside of you that pushes you to do things that create wealth.
Yeah. It's about helping people.
I believe that those are God-given gifts. And so we are incredibly excited. Like I said, we don't know all the details yet. We don't have it all ironed out. What we know is that he has made a verbal commitment with us, and as we showed on the video on Facebook, he has said that he's teaming up with us, and we've actually spoken probably 4 or 5 times since I left there on Friday.
That is awesome.
So hold on. So now Nathan's a No Limit soldier. Is that what I'm saying? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I've always been a No Limit soldier, but now I guess it's official. So,
exactly.
we can get that tag on me.
Kat, I don't know if you know, Nathan could tell you too. Also, his son is a great rapper. Also,
okay, yes.
So, I mean, they come from a great line, and I think Nathan, that was a great thing. Now, granted, I apologize. I jumped the gun a little bit. I was excited. I was more excited, I think, to hear about that than anything. And I think, man, let me just set this up real quick, and I apologize on my part. But I did what he asked. I pulled it down right away. So. But,
I think P will be interested in doing some stuff with us in the future, and I've just talked to him briefly about it. And he's just got a lot of stuff going on right now. He's doing some filming on a movie. He's got some other projects that he's working on, and this thing kind of got dumped into his lap, and then he's real excited about it. So he wants to get to work on it, and we're gonna kind of formulate a plan on how this whole thing's gonna play out. But he just. Like I said, he just stays relevant. I think it was just the end of August, he released the G Mixtape album, and it's just still producing incredible music, and
Absolutely.
it just over and over and over again, like you said. Now Romeo is hitting the charts, and they're doing all kinds of stuff together, and he just really, his partner there said one thing that I can tell you about P is that, I had spent a long time, talking with his son and, conversing with his son. And my partner had actually worked with him at MTV earlier on. And he said he's just a well-rounded, good kid, young adult that respects his father, understands work ethic, and is just willing to work and is respectful. And he said, so that really says a lot about the person that raised him.
Absolutely. And the great thing about when Master P started, actually, a lot of, getting all the different artists and everything on board with him and started No Limit Records, it was amazing because everybody said he went from 0 to multi-million. I mean, within, months. And that's how you knew he was a businessman. It wasn't, some guy that just instead of making a couple of dollars and getting out of the business. And I think that's a great contribution to your business because he's not looking at himself. He's looking at, hey, what can I make for this company, and how can we make this a better product?
Sure,
and
absolutely.
like you said, now you get a couple, just throwing a couple ideas out there. You get a couple membership auto shirts. He's on the movie set. Example like The Rock when he just did his with Kevin Hart. they had somebody's shirt on, and they kind of for a little free advertising, and I mean,
Yep.
you can go from there, and I think that's a great thing. But I think that was definitely a good contribution that you got to your company.
That is awesome.
Yeah, no, we're incredibly blessed to have him take an interest in this, and he certainly could have, just turned his nose up at it and said, "Hey, I appreciate the opportunity, but I'm real busy and I'm rich enough." And he could have said that, and he didn't. He was just a real just nice guy, genuine guy, and he's excited about it because he took the time to listen and understand what we're doing and watch our little 6-minute infomercial and he's got the paperwork and reading about it and we're going to just spend a lot more time really just bringing him up to speed on where we're at because this is something that we spent. I spoke to him on the phone. I guess it was yesterday. I spoke with him and Sean and we talked about the plans for the future and where we're going with it. And I told him, I said, look, the things that I exposed you to in the 4 hours and 7 minutes that we met the other day, that's like 6 or 8% of what we're doing. That you got to understand that is not all of it. Wow. So I appreciate the fact that you're excited about that, but I'm telling you, there's way, way more to this than you even realize. And so we need to have a few more meetings and we need to have some face-to-face time. And I want to bring you really, really up to speed on what this company is about and how we're going to disrupt everything about automotive repair.
Well, let's talk a little bit about automotive repair if you wouldn't mind. But I was asking Kat about this and she was actually asking the thing we were talking about it the other day, but how about storm damages and stuff like that when you come into, with the Hurricane Hermione and stuff like that?
Trees.
I mean, how much damage,
especially flooding,
can it do on a car?
You're talking about flood damage?
Yeah.
Yes.
Water damage, going through puddles and stuff like that. Actually, my daughter's boyfriend had this problem actually happen to him because of the recent storm we had. He went to go visit a friend and the street was flooded and he misjudged it and he ended up, his car just shut off. And he was devastated because he thought for sure it was toast. Luckily, it was just a few inches. It just was water in the intake, but we know it could be so much worse.
Yeah, I mean, here's a situation with that. There's multiple different things that can happen. One of the worst things that people can do is they put on these cold air intakes and they're aftermarket and they go typically down inside the fender, and some people extend them way too far and they go way down by the road. Mm-hmm. Which they shouldn't be because one, it collects a lot of dirt and grime and it just clogs the filter quickly, which actually reduces performance. Mm-hmm. So it should be up high inside the filter if they do the cold air intake. But I see a lot of people that go with a cold air intake, they drive through a moderate puddle that any other car could go through, mm-hmm. and it will suck water into the engine, and an engine is not designed to expel water. It is just not designed. And so you do something called hydrolocking, where it will typically do catastrophic damage and typically will end that engine's life if you suck enough water in while the vehicle is running. We've had multiple customers that have done it. And it can happen with a factory car as well, depending on, like you said, if maybe you misjudge it and you go into the water and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I didn't realize there was this deep and the vehicle's running. And understand that,
his was just a factory Ford Taurus, but it was it got it. You know how the Taurus, they have the intake down low, so
sure, absolutely, and a lot of them do, and they have little spouts that try to suck a little bit of cold air. The colder the air that you get into the engine, the denser the fuel mixture can be, and so it's better to get cooler air into the engine rather than warmer air, and that's typically done from like the fender well area rather than the engine bay, because the engine bay is typically extraordinarily hot. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you get real lucky and it will shut off quickly and it won't do a lot of damage. Sometimes it won't do any damage. It can just, it just kills the engine. Something will trigger it. One of the sensors will go out of whack if it has a mass airflow sensor or something of that nature. All of a sudden it goes cold and it will shut the engine down, cause a major fault. And then sometimes you don't get so lucky and you suck a major amount of water into that engine. And when that happens, typically you get bent parts. You can twist a rod pretty easy. You can bend valves. You can blow holes and stuff. I mean, it's bad. Water really can't be compressed. It's like the principle behind hydraulics. You can't compress liquids. And so when you attempt to do that, and you've got all of this force that this engine is producing, it can unfortunately be catastrophic. So definitely driving through deep water in a car is an extraordinary risk, not just from the standpoint of you can suck water into the intake, but there are also multiple things on the mid portion of the engine that should not be getting wet. And there are things on the lower end of the car that really should not be getting wet. I'll give you an example. The catalytic converter will easily get, 700 degrees, 1,000 degrees. And when you're driving into that water, you are instantly cooling that catalytic converter. And there's probably a 90% chance you're going to crack it internally. And when you do that, the honeycomb inside the catalytic converter can shift, and you can get engine performance problems, you can get emissions problems, you can get O2 sensor codes. There's all types of issues that can be, done with that. So the end result is cars are not meant to go in the water yet. So, steer clear of it. It's not, going through puddles and things of that nature. It's dangerous because there are definitely things underneath there that can get wet, that can cause all kinds of havoc. And
just not worth it.
Just not worth it. Nope, just not worth it. I mean, when you've got, some of these vehicles that are all jacked up, you get big jacked up Jeeps, and they're designed to go through, mudding and water and things of that nature. And they've got snorkels that, suck air from higher up. And so they can accomplish that without a problem. They can get up into the fender wells with water and not have a problem. But you got to understand these vehicles are designed for that, but a factory vehicle is not designed for that.
Right.
Absolutely. We're talking to Nathan from Membership Auto, along with Kat running the board. Why I'm out, my daughter and my son at open house, unfortunately. I'm having all the fun. Nate, let me ask you a question. As far as on an exhaust, like example, I seen somebody was telling me that they were having an issue with they thought it was a cylinder, and yesterday I kind of looked behind their truck and I seen their exhaust, the pipe from the muffler pipe, like almost coming apart from the muffler. It was literally like banging. I mean, it looked like it was ready to fall off. Could that also be like a sign? Could that do something to make the engine run rough?
Typically, if you see like the exhaust pipe moving, I mean, there can be a couple of different reasons why. There are multiple hangers on an exhaust system. Some of them are rubber, some of them are metal, and there are different hangers that hold that exhaust up tight underneath the vehicle and cause it not to rattle and things of that nature. Those hangers can break, and they can just rot. They just through time they get old and deteriorated, and they can come off. They can fall off. They can just through different movements and things of that nature, they can come off. That puts more of a strain on the exhaust system, if that's the case, and it can crack the exhaust system, and you can have problems there. Or the exhaust can actually just rot, and at the welds is typically where you see the most problems, where if you get rust or anything of that nature, it will rust through, and then you'll see that pipe that will, kind of flutter or whatever. Typically a fluttering or a moving exhaust pipe, tailpipe, something like that, won't have anything to do with drivability. That typically doesn't have anything to do with it. The muffler's job is to create a little bit of back pressure and to keep the noise quiet. It's a muffler, and that's what it does, is a muffle sound, keeps the vehicle quiet. And the same thing with the catalytic converter, it creates a little back pressure there. So, but like I said, unless you have a major exhaust fault, it won't cause an engine performance problem.
See, that they were asking me about that actually today, and I told them not that. I said, look, I got one of my friends that are going to be on, and I'll ask him, because they were like, oh, it started running rough after that, But the problem is, it's just like when you're ill and you look up WebMD on there, and you put all these symptoms in. You
got
can only
the
have
worst possible thing.
You're gonna think you're gonna die.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So I mean, it's the same thing. All of a sudden they put it in. Now I don't know if that'd probably be a good thing. I don't know if they have that or not, but Automotive MD.
Right.
They should put that in. You put all the information in, and all of a sudden it tells you yes, you need a new engine. Meanwhile, it was just a bracket on the muffler.
Right. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing that typically happens with an exhaust is that if an exhaust pipe breaks or rots through or anything of that nature, is typically the first thing that happens is it gets louder. And so you start hearing a noise that you never heard before, and that can be misinterpreted as the engine is running rough. And the engine is not running rough. You're just now hearing exhaust notes that you would have heard if you had just disconnected the exhaust off the car and ran it. So sometimes that can be deceiving. The vehicle may not actually be running rough. It may just be the noises that you're hearing that are causing you to think that it's running rough.
We're talking to Nathan from Membership Auto, and like I said, with Kat running the board. And, of course, me, Tom the Freeman, on the phone asking all the questions to Nate because Kat doesn't know too much about cars.
No, because you jumped in before. You're jumping in and hogging the mic, buddy.
Yeah. Another thing, you know, when you were talking about the flood cars, you know, just real quick, you know, you want to always be real careful as far as getting a vehicle that has been submerged in water, whether it was through an accident or whether it was through a flood situation. I mean, and you know, I know that Baton Rouge, you know, recently in the Louisiana area had gotten, you know, berated pretty bad with some water, and there were a lot of vehicles that were submerged. And a lot of times these vehicles will be sold with a salvage title or with a, you know, they'll replace an engine or they'll replace a transmission or they'll replace the interior or they'll do whatever, and they'll put this vehicle back on the market. And you really need to do your homework. And there's two different types of submerged vehicles. There's freshwater, which typically will cause less problems with corrosion, but it will cause rust and corrosion. And then you've got saltwater, you know, submersion, which is going to be a lot more of a problem because that salt and corrosion is going to find its way into wiring harnesses. It's going to find its way into all of these areas. And I can't tell you how many customers I've had that have bought a car, thought they got a great deal on it. It was submerged underwater. It was in the Carfax, and the people had done some repairs on it, and now all of a sudden the electrical gremlins are starting to creep up on them. And so now you're chasing all of these problems, and they're not, and those are the worst problems to try to find. Because the entire vehicle up to the roof line was underwater, and you've got almost miles of wire in there if you put them end to end that you have to trace to and try to figure out where the problem is. And it could just be one little area has got a little corrosion in it, and that's, you know, stops an entire system from working and can cause some real problems. So that's, you know, always if you're going to be buying a used vehicle, run a Carfax or an auto check or something of that nature. Make sure you get the history on it so you know if it's been in a flood.
And especially more recent vehicles because the circuit boards on these things nowadays. I mean,
absolutely no. Today it's way worse. Way worse. I mean, you get an older vehicle, you get a vehicle from the 60s. It's like, you know, it's been underwater, whatever. We'll change a few things and you just go. But you know, today the circuit boards and the amount of multiplexing they're doing with computers and things of that nature, it's extraordinarily imperative that you make sure that vehicle has not been submerged.
I heard some today, and you can confirm this or not, but I mean obviously I definitely know you got to know this. But is it true that they can actually shut down your car? They have the technology to shut it down. Like, let's say the police had my truck example, and they run my plate and they get the VIN number, and then they said they could shut your car down automatically.
It depends on your software.
Yeah, I mean, is that possible?
I'll tell you this. There's two different situations. One, I know that the used car lots, especially the buy here, pay here lots, have systems like that they install in the car.
Yeah, it's kind of like a load jack.
Aftermarket.
Yeah, it's like a load jack.
It's similar. And if you don't make your payment, they just stop your car from running. And when you make your payment, they turn your car back on so that you can drive it. So, you know, it kind of forces people to make their payments so they, you know, can collect their money.
Go get
paid.
Now,
a lot of the vehicles today, you know, especially GM with OnStar and things of that nature, they have a lot of technological capacity as far as unlocking your vehicle through satellite, diagnosing a check engine light, maybe not necessarily diagnosing it, but seeing if it's something that's a serious problem or something that you can keep on driving until you can get to a dealership. So to answer your question, I would say that vehicles are probably all leaning towards that direction where they will ultimately be able to be shut down at a flip of a switch if a person is either trying to run from the cops or, you know, something of that nature. which, you know what, ultimately could save a lot of lives. So,
yeah, I mean, they do sell it. They do sell it as a security measure, like in case somebody steals your car or takes off, or somebody's irresponsible and reckless behind the wheel. That's the big selling point.
Yeah,
on it.
well, the technology definitely exists, and I know that it exists aftermarket, and I know that it exists factory.
Yeah.
And I know that they can do that. So I don't know what all the laws and rules and regulations are of when they can do it.
The legislation always has to play catch up with the technology.
Exactly. And so I'm sure there's going to be lawsuits about it, and I'm sure there's going to be all kinds of different privacy laws breached, and they're going to say you can't do that. I own the vehicle. But
I know for years, the aftermarket has had, like alarm systems that can do that, where you have remote engine shutoffs and stuff like
absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can. Yeah, a lot of them you can shut them right off through your cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them will slowly bring the car to a stop. So obviously you don't cause an accident where you just lock up the brakes in the middle of I-95. But it will slowly bring the vehicle to a stop. It will steer the vehicle off to the right so that it will park it on the side of the road. And some of them even have the technology to lock the doors and make them not, so that
so they're trapped inside.
Yeah, traps them inside. And there are TV shows that use that technology. I'm trying to think of what the name of the TV show is, Trapped or something, some of that nature, where they actually
where they set up the
bait car.
Yeah, they bait the bait cars and stuff, and they set them up to come in there and try and steal the car, and they catch them.
Yeah.
I've seen
and then they lock them in, and then the police pull up, and they have a real hard time explaining why they're there.
Yep.
Yeah. How about a Tesla? For example, I mean, is that easier to work on? I mean, obviously because a lot of the electrical the stuff in there, or is that probably going to be?
It's very electronic, so I would say my guess would probably be that it's going to be a trick. It's like working on.
Yeah, you're talking about. You said Tesla.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no, Tesla's a very complex vehicle. I mean, there's a lot of technology there, and there's a lot of electronics there, and whenever you get into electronics. The more you get into electronics, and listen, all of the vehicles are going to electronics with Apple Play and Google Play or Android Play and all the different, the screens are getting bigger, the cars getting smarter, they're getting self-driving cars, they're getting these incredible navigation systems.
Yeah.
Tesla has a lot of technology in it, and so more difficult to work on than a typical vehicle, for sure, no question.
Right, because we are getting into the world of smart cars. Because I heard that the government and the insurance industry and everybody are pushing for self-driving cars by 2020.
Yeah, and I think that even if they have these self-driving cars by 2020, I think that there's, I don't know, and this is just my personal feeling. I don't have any inside information on it. I feel like people are going to be a little bit nervous about it,
I
think that's
it's going to be hard to get people to adopt it. Yeah,
is I think probably at least 15 to 20 years out before anybody's comfortable getting in a car and saying, "Hey, take me to Walmart."
The millennials will probably jump on. Millennials might jump on a little before the rest of us, but they're also using Uber and stuff.
Maybe they're a little more daring.
Yeah.
I just don't see that the technology is there. Listen, my computer crashes all the time.
Yeah.
My iPhone will walk up on me at the most inopportune times while I'm right in the middle of a text. And so I just know technology, and I know that technology is fallible, and I know that the technology was produced by a human, and it's not perfect. And here's the problem: when you have a check engine light come on in your car, you can just take the car and you can drive it, and you go to a dealership. If you have a self-driving car and it thinks that you're going to hit something and you're not, and so it swerves into the left lane to miss something that's not there, and it hits the car beside you, that's a relatively serious problem.
Right, you're hoping the other cars are smart and avoid you.
Well, and that's just it. They're not all going to be smart,
right.
And so
it's going to be quite a transition.
Malfunction.
Yeah.
And so that makes me a little bit nervous. Myself, I'm not an adopter yet. I mean, I think that the technology will go there, but I don't think that it is there. And I think that even if it is there, it's not perfected yet and not anywhere near the fail-safes to make it something that I would, throw my kids into and head to the store, and I certainly won't be doing it.
Oh yeah,
Not
no. I mean, they're
anytime soon.
definitely going to have like manual overrides for a long time before
You're
the
going to have
technology's
to.
there.
You've got to have the manual override
Yeah.
because if the car freaks out and decides to do something crazy, and listen, it will take one major malfunction,
Uh-huh.
and it will be unfortunate because it will probably kill somebody or hurt them very badly, and that will be the end of self-driving cars.
Yeah, I'm starting to think of Christine. You know, Stephen King's book and movie.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And I mean, look, there are these, there's a lot of vehicles now that come with electric steering, and these electric steering vehicles are incredibly risky. They're great. They have a manual rack and they have the electronic motor on the actual inside of the column, and it makes the steering assist good. But I have seen them malfunction grossly, and the steering wheel will go all the way to the left or all the way to the right, and it will steer itself, and it's not asking you or getting your permission. And a strong person, a really strong person, can stop it, but most people cannot.
Oh my gosh!
And so I think that as you see more and more of these electric steering vehicles coming out, and as you see more and more of these failures where they just think, oh, I should be turning all the way left. They're asking me to go all the way left, and you're not. I think that as you see more and more of those, you're going to see less and less of that technology, or there's going to have to be some major,
upgrade the technology,
overrides and fail safes to make sure that everybody's protected when they're in the vehicle.
Yeah. That's some scary stuff.
So look, technology is good and technology is bad. It's just like fire. I mean, you can use fire and you can heat your home and you can, you can build a campfire and it can keep you alive and you can cook your food or it can burn your house down. So, I mean, technology is the same way. When used properly, technology is fantastic. And if it malfunctions, it can really cause a lot of problems. And if people are too addicted to it, I think that it can cause a lot of problems. I can't tell you how many people I see that are sitting across from each other texting.
Yeah.
Like, what? Look up. I'm right here. So unless it's a private conversation that if you're in a public place, you need to have a private conversation. I think that probably technology has gotten away from us a little bit, and I think that we're getting a little bit detached as humans. And look, I have iPhone and the iPads, and I have all of the technologies and Bluetooth headsets and the Apple iWire. Although I have all the technology, and I utilize it, and I use it for my business mainly. I don't have a lot of interactions with my friends, on my technology, but as a business tool, it is incredibly useful to me, incredibly useful. I can run my business from Los Angeles here in West Palm Beach, 98% of it. And it's great. But on the other side, I think that we're getting a little detached. And so, like I said, technology is great, and I think that it will continue to evolve and it will continue to make our lives easier. But as our phones get smarter, I think that sometimes people get dumber.
Oh, yeah.
I know for a fact, me, I'm only 38 years old, so I remember when I had my first cell phone when they first came out. And I just know that it's changing so rapidly, and it's becoming such an addiction to some people where they just have to be on it just all the time. And if they can't have that phone with them, and I've had employees that I've had to let go because they're constantly, every 5 minutes on that phone. I've got to text my girlfriend. I've got to get on Facebook and check my status. I've got to, they're just on it all the time. And it just becomes a disconnect.
Isn't it crazy how we all used to just actually have conversations and like things would wait until like later in the day to talk to somebody?
Sure. So it's different, and like I said, I think the technology is good. I'm not an advent for let's just all throw our cell phones in the ocean. I don't want to do that. I look, technology is fantastic and it's great, and it's great, but it needs to be controlled, and it needs to be. You need to realize that it has the potential to be addictive, and don't let it control your life, because if you do, I think it's sad.
Yeah.
You know, it's
well, there's a
we're
joke.
losing our human interaction.
There's a joke I see where they talk about how if the movie The Breakfast Club was made today, it would be 5 kids sitting around in detention on their phones, just staring at their screens.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, I know a lot of families are limiting it, and I know I limit it with my kids. They have their tablets, but I limit it, and I say you get this amount of time, and our stuff is password protected, so it gets shut off, and there's a password on, and they can't turn it back on. So trying to limit it because I don't want them to be on it 24 hours a day.
It's like I rule the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, absolutely. I shut it right off. So.
Let's go back to the Tesla for a minute. But whose responsibility is it now? Do you have an electric area that they can plug into? I mean, is that going to be a government situation like they got to?
Oh, on the electric cars? Yeah, they're going to have to definitely put grants out there to like have more charging stations and stuff. But there's also like some like technology things happening where like some government facilities are going to have solar power and converting to solar power, so it'll be easier. There's also talk of like solar roadways and things like that. So it's a big infrastructure change and shift, which, kind of like when we went from horse and buggy to cars.
It is going to take a major infrastructure change, and I think that maybe electric cars are part of the future. I don't necessarily think that they are the future, and I think that people have a little misconception, and they think that they're doing their part, and they're really being a great human being because they've got an electric car and they're reducing emissions and they're playing their part reducing CO2 emissions. And here's the issue, and you got to think root. You don't think plant, you think root. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got an electric vehicle that is run by batteries. Okay, Now these batteries are extensive. Okay, they're expensive and they're extensive. Okay, so they're very difficult to dispose of once they have gone bad. These battery banks. Okay. Second issue you have is that when you're working on them, they're extraordinarily dangerous. They can kill you. Because there are a lot of amps, and amps is what will stop your heart not volts.
And there's some toxic chemicals involved with them as well.
A lot of toxic chemicals. Okay, so now we get to the root of electricity. Now, do you know what the majority of our electricity, how it's created here in America?
Currently, it's by coal.
Coal. That's right. Okay, so when people tell me, I just bought a hybrid or I bought an electric vehicle, I said, "Oh, you bought a coal burner?"
Right.
And they're like, "What?" I said, "You're burning coal." I said, "That's what you're burning."
Unless you put solar panels on your building.
Well, that's the thing, is that you got to look at it from a realistic, rational standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, okay, I'm either burning coal or I'm burning gasoline, which is better.
Right.
The issue with these coal plants is that they're not as restricted as a car is on emissions on the road. So a gasoline engine burns cleaner than a coal plant.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm not saying do away with electric vehicles. That's not what I'm saying.
No, they're just
I'm
more
just
like a
saying that
stepping
people
stone.
need to put some thought into it and say, hey, you know what? This may make sense to have as a a little, whatever, back and forth commute or whatever, but I'm still going to rely on, this, and this. And I think that there are new technologies, and I think that hydrogen is very viable. They just have to find a way. And I think that they've already found a way. I think it's still in testing to make the hydrogen stable, to separate it in the vehicle so that you're not storing hydrogen, because that's the problem. That's when it becomes a bomb. And I think that hydrogen is probably the technology that will take majority of the place of the gas and diesel and propane and ethanol and all the different things that they're trying to use.
Right.
I just think that electricity probably is not going to catch on as much as people think it's going to. I think it'll be there,
stone. It's
but
like
I
a
just
stepping
don't think
stone
it's going to be as big a piece of this picture as people think it is.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. And like I said, that's just my opinion.
And I think also, like a lot of things too, we have like ride sharing technologies and even mass transit will, kind of like come along and take care of some of that, the problem solving as well.
Absolutely. I mean, here's the situation, okay? Membership Auto, the product, is designed to make vehicles run at peak performance. When vehicles are running at peak performance, they produce almost no emissions. Almost none.
Right.
Okay? It's not like the old days where you have a brand new car and you can just kill yourself with the CO2 emission, coming out of it, or the carbon monoxide or whatever. It's not like that anymore because of the government regulations and the way that things have changed, and the technology of being able to burn the fuel more completely, and the technology to separate the molecules inside of the catalytic converter before they get into the atmosphere.
Right.
So listen, the issue is not the car. The issue is the owner. Okay. So as long as the car, or I'll use a broader spectrum, as long as the vehicle is kept in peak running condition, then you are producing almost nothing for emissions. And there are multiple different ways that you can reduce emissions even further than the factory has. And with CAFE standards and all the different things, it's just getting more stringent and more stringent and more stringent. And so I think that, like I said, I don't think that cars are the problem. I don't think that gasoline is the problem. I don't think that diesel is the problem. I think that the way that people are maintaining their vehicles is the problem.
Yep.
I'm thinking that a broken rigged system that has been broken for 100 years and nobody has bothered to even think about how do we change this because of their profit.
Right.
Because it's profitable. It's insanely profitable. I can get this customer to come in and give me $1,500 and they can walk out the door and I can see them again in a couple of months and get another $1,500.
Yeah.
And so Membership Auto.
Yeah, keeping people ignorant of it.
They're ignorant of it. And look, here's the situation. I'm ignorant of exactly how my heart works.
Yeah.
But I have a heart doctor that I trust that makes sure that my heart keeps ticking, hopefully, and that's also up to God. But ultimately, you rely on people for certain things. I rely on my computer guy to make sure that my computer stuff is working. I rely on my CTO, Don Law, to make sure that he's writing the Future Tech software the way that we need it so that it can run the Membership Auto program. I rely on a lot of people. And so you need to find a garage that you can rely on that has no incentive to ever hurt you.
Right.
Or to fix things that don't need to be fixed. And that is the fundamental problem in this industry, is that everybody's out to get your money. And they can lie and they can candy coat it and they can do whatever they want. If they want to argue with me about it, then they can get on the air with me and I'll argue with anybody about it. I don't care what company you work for. The fact of the matter is that these people are trained to separate you from your money. And they get paid higher amounts the more money they take out of your pocket. Now, did I just say they get paid higher amounts for the more safe they make your car? No.
Right.
They get paid more for taking money out of your pockets. That's wrong. And that's not the way that it should be. And nobody has bothered to try to redesign the system simply because of profits. But here's the situation. Membership Auto's here. Okay? Now we have a major player who's with us. We have an incredible team anyway. We're doing it anyway. But now with Master P, getting involved in this thing, he is an incredible, brilliant mind. People don't give him enough credit for what he does. This man is brilliant, off the charts brilliant, okay? I bet if they graded him, which they never have, I bet he's on the genius scale.
Right.
And a lot of people think, oh, he's just a rapper, or he's a thug. That isn't the guy.
No, that's underestimating him.
He's underestimated, and they've done it his whole life, and that's why now he's worth like $400 million because he's been underestimated his whole life. Yep. So, we've got this program that's been, 6, almost 7 years in development. We have done, extraordinary beta testing, more extensive than people say I should do. Why have you waited so long? Why did you test so long? Why did you do this? Well, here's the reason why, because people's lives and safeties and their pocketbooks are at risk here. And so it has to be right. And so we have been overly cautious in developing this program to make sure that it works for the consumer, make sure that it works for us. I mean, obviously we're in business. We need to be profitable.
Right.
So, but we have designed this program so that there is no more of this little scam game, and there's no more of this going back and forth with your sales guy trying to figure out if you can get the best deal. Oh, yeah, I'll do it for $250. I'll do it for $229. I'll do it for $219 if you throw in an oil change. I mean, it's a game that I got tired of playing. And I said, look, I don't want to play this game with these guys anymore. I don't want to play with Jimmy across the street. I don't want him undercutting me because he can do this, or him saying that we do things that we don't do, or, you know what I'm saying? It's just a very corrupt system. It's really like our political system.
Right.
It's just corrupt from the core. And it's just been like that forever, and everybody just kind of accepted it. Oh, I'm going to go in and buy a used car, and I'm going to get screwed. Or I'm going to go and get my car, I'm going to get screwed. You know, I'm going to walk in, I'm going to get an oil change. It's going to be a $600 bill. I'm going to get screwed. But you know what? Those days are over.
Right.
And I'm telling you that over the next 6, 12, 18 months, you are going to see some major, major things from Innovative Auto, which is the holding corporation which owns the product Membership Auto. You are going to see some major things from Membership Auto because we are assembling a team that is international, world-class, and we are going to be really, really taking a big piece of the automotive industry. So we got some big things lined up, and we're working every single day. While other people are taking a break and resting and taking their vacations, we're working.
Well, see,
and
that's how you get ahead.
You know. That's how you get ahead. That's right. You always listen. Here's the deal: as soon as you're not hungry anymore, that the guy's going to come up behind you and take it from you. I'll never forget. I was probably, I don't know, maybe 17 years old, 16 years old, and I read Sam Walton's biography, and you know, Made in America, and what an incredible man.
Yeah.
And you know, he talks in the end. He says the number one question, just right towards the end of the book. And he says, the number one question I get asked is, could the Walmart story ever happen again? And he said, not only could it, I'm guaranteeing that it will, over and over and over again. Right now, he said this clearly, right now, there are people or multiple people that are formulating a plan to take your place. So don't think for 1 second that you ever get comfortable where you're at, because the guy behind you is trying to eat your lunch.
Yep.
So you have to be constantly innovating. You got to constantly be making your customers extraordinarily happy. You got to constantly be marketing. You got to constantly be at the forefront. You have to be the leader, and you got to be setting the bar for excellence, and everybody else has got to be playing catch up. And the minute that you get to the point where you say, you know what, we've arrived, or we're okay where we're at, we're good enough, it's over.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah.
And it has been repeated throughout history over and over and over again with Radio Shack and Best Buy soon and Sports Authority and all of these different companies that have gone out of business and all of these big box retailers that are shrinking.
Yeah.
Macy's just had to close a bunch of stores. You know, Kmart is closing stores left and right. Sears is closing stores left and right. And it's because Amazon came up from behind them.
Yep.
And nobody took them serious.
Yeah. Well, like the entire record industry didn't take. Yeah, record industry didn't take online. Yeah.
Listen, Blockbuster was in the best position.
Oh yeah.
To knock Netflix out way before they became a problem. But you know what? They didn't see it.
Yeah.
They didn't see it. You got to be visionary about it, and you can't just be like, okay, I'm okay where I'm at. You got to say, and this is one thing that I thought was incredible when I was speaking with Master P. He said, I'm understanding that the game is changing. The way that CDs are sold and the technology and the YouTube videos and all of these different things, it's all changing. Nobody goes to the store anymore and buys a CD.
Right.
You just hit buy. You hit buy on your iTunes and you own it.
Yeah.
And so that's how I buy my album.
Yeah, the record.
All my music is all my music is in my technology.
The record industry was completely blindsided by Napster back in the 90s.
Completely blindsided. And why were they? Because everybody saw that coming except for them.
Exactly. They're like, well, why would we want to, go and spend money on a physical copy when we could just download it instantly for, and the sense of it.
I don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah. And then the sense of it is like, okay, then you don't even have to produce the physical, item. You can just electronically just be submitting ones and zeros over the internet.
Yeah. And that's why, Master P is such an innovator, and that's why he's still relevant. That's why he's still on top, and that's why he's still dominating.
Yeah.
Because he sees the future and sees how things are changing. And we as a company, Go ahead.
I see that he's one of his financial inspirations, or one of the people that he follows is Robert Kiyosaki, which is the Rich Dad Poor Dad guy. I absolutely love that guy. You know, I follow him. I read all his books too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Master P has some. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. Who do you use as far as your material for your cars? Do you do like example? My brother owns a big parts. It's called the Parts House, all over the state of Florida. And I don't know if you ever heard of them or not, but anyway,
that's one of our suppliers.
Okay, well, I was going to say my brother's one of the owners, Dean Armentier, and that was my question to you, is because I don't know, a lot of people don't understand that they got AC Delco, they got all name brand Motorcraft, they got all the name brand stuff that you can buy, that you're not going to get ripped off at. So I was just trying to find out if you use them also.
Yeah, listen, we have multiple suppliers. We really have about, probably 25 or 35 different channels of people that we can buy through. And we have our main suppliers that we use. The Parts House is a very good supplier because they do have factory stuff at far less than factory pricing. And so, I mean, you obviously want to use high quality goods whenever you're repairing a vehicle. Some things matter more than others. And it just really depends on what the customer can afford, because not all customers can afford an AC Delco. They have to go aftermarket and they have to save a little bit of money. But with the program, you don't have to worry about that. We're going to be putting high quality goods in your car, and you don't even have to request it, because if we put high quality goods in your car, it's going to last longer, and that's what we're here for.
Nice.
Exactly. The great thing about that, and I'll tell you an example. I just had my Dodge truck. I use it for my tree stuff, and the brakes went out and the power steering hose, and I brought up the Pep Boys, and I'm like, hey, can you guys go ahead and give me a price on this? Well, anyway, they told me it was like $435 for labor, and so anyway, make a long story short, it's going to be like $1,380. They were talking about the parts were going to be, the difference from the $430, and that's why I said I called my brother's place. And it was like $165. Now, that's the great thing about your place, because you're going to be guaranteeing the parts. Whatever it buys, you're going to be getting it. You're not going to be ripping them off, because they don't have to buy them again once they join membership.
You bet. Yeah, yeah, and that really is key. Is that we have the same interest as you. We have more interest than you of you not breaking down. I have to insure it, because if I don't, I'm not profitable. And so, we really, we really take meticulous care of the vehicle, and we treat it as if it's our own, as if our own children are riding in it, and my children are my life. And so, I want to make sure that they're safe. I want to make sure that everybody on the road is safe. And I can tell you, the stuff that you're going to be seeing out of this company, the technology that we are producing, the way that we're using existing technologies in different ways, is going to absolutely blow you away. Because, and I'm not saying that to, toot my own horn, oh, look at us, we're awesome. Listen, here's the deal. We have an incredible team with incredible knowledge, with incredible minds that have developed a system that it is absolutely unmatched in this industry. Unmatched. There's not, everybody says, who is your competition? And I just kind of sit back and I have to say it. I don't have any. And they say, well, that's kind of, arrogant, isn't it? No. And I'll tell you why. There's nobody that has the technology that we have. There's nobody that is using the technology that we're using. There are people that are 600 times larger than we are, and they aren't doing it as smart as we are. You know why? Because we know what it's like to struggle. We know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck. We know what it's like to have your car break down, because we drive used cars too. Mm-hmm. We're not riding Ferraris. we're riding, I still have one of my vehicles is a 1999 Lincoln Navigator with 179,000 miles on it. We had a 2003 Cavalier that we rode until we turned about 200,000 miles on it. And, so we drive used vehicles, and so we know what it's like to have the headaches and to have the struggles. And here's the problem, is that these CEOs that have an office in the top of a building in New York City or California or wherever it may be, West Palm Beach, and they get a $50 million a year salary, $6 million a year salary, whatever it is. They lose touch with their customers.
Yeah.
And that's the worst thing you can possibly do. Now, listen, I'm not banging their salary because I'm going to be making that salary. I'm going to blow their salaries out of the water. But you know what? I'm never going to lose touch with the customer, because as soon as you detach and you don't understand the struggle of the customer that you're providing for, the client that you're providing for, as soon as you detach from that, you're done.
Yeah.
You're done. Seal it.
Well, going back to what you said about Sam Walton, he used to walk into the stores just, looking like any farmer off the field.
Absolutely. Just walk right in. And you know what? He had a standing order, and this is what he would do. He would go to the employees first. He would ask them how they were doing, how they were treated. Then he would go to the assistant managers, and then he would go to the managers. And by the time he got to the top, he kind of had the truth. Mm-hmm. But if you start and you go to your top manager and you say, hey, tell me how things are going. Oh, everything's great, boss. Everything's great, boss. Well, of course they're going to say that. You're paying them, $100,000 a year to run a store, and what do they want to do? Lose their job?
Right.
And then you talk to the stock boy, and they say, well, they don't do this or they don't do that, or geez, it would be really a lot easier to do this if we had this piece of equipment. And a lot of times these people that are working for far less than the managers come up with way better ideas.
Yeah, they're more in touch with it.
And so you got to be open, and you got to be real. And that's what I love about my team. That's what I love about my company. That's what I love about Master P. That we're real. We're real people. We live real lives, and Master P is by far the most successful out of any of us, but he has not lost connection with reality. He understands the struggle of people that are either poor or lower middle class or even upper middle class. Even upper middle class today is not living high on the hog. They're just not.
Right.
And so, we're here to help. That's what we set out to do. It started in 1999, and we are about to revolutionize. And as some certain things happen, we are working with patent attorneys, and we're getting granted trademarks and all kinds of different things. We're in the throes of this right now, so it will be probably several more months. But as this technology is introduced, I will definitely expose you guys to it and let you know how we utilize it. And we're just totally different than any other automotive or just vehicle service and repair, whether it's a jet ski, a scooter, a motorcycle, a boat, a four-wheeler, or a Chevy Cavalier or a Toyota Camry. We're a totally different company. Totally different.
Well, we are definitely interested in keeping up and following along and, knowing what's going on here, because a car is can make such a big difference on somebody's livelihoods and their life. And
Huge.
Especially here in a place like Florida where we don't really have mass transit as a backup. So
absolutely.
You guys are
critical.
Really, helping serve a critical need.
Absolutely.
Well, Nathan, it has been awesome talking to you tonight, and I look forward to talking to you again in a couple of weeks.
Excellent.
All right. So, and keep up with the good news and the good work and everything.
All right. Oh yeah, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep on going. We got some major moves we got to make, so we're going to make it happen. So God bless. Thanks you guys, and we appreciate giving us the airtime.
No problem. We'll talk to you again here in a couple weeks.
All right. Talk soon.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.